So it is my honor with that sort of introduction to be introducing people. This is not new to them to work 24 hours a day. When they're awake, they are always at it, because I know I've traveled with them, I've lived with them, and Desiree's up till the middle of the night on her computer, editing and streaming and downloading. And JJ is a real master sage. He is getting downloads and putting it into new keys. The Keys of Enoch was a book he did in 1973, but recently he's releasing 10 more keys. That first book, which is a really thick book, Keys of Enoch, Book of Knowledge, was 54 keys. He waited 40 years to release this next level of knowledge because we weren't ready for it then. And now we are, and we need it. And thank you both for the hard work and the love and that we share. And we also travel the world, me, JJ, and Desiree, talking about UFOs and cosmic contact. And there couldn't be better people I could be with in this field, because they have a big scope of knowledge. So I'm really happy they're joining us tonight with this field of knowledge about the cosmic family that we are a part of. So JJ, Desiree, please.
And thank you for having us in your book, Making Contact. We wrote chapter 3. And so that's one of the reasons we're traveling together, to get the message out.
Yes, we live at a very exciting time. The James Webb Telescope is being prepared for launching to look at the beginning of the physical universe. The government is releasing a disclosure project of information going back 75 years, but there are other platforms, and we as social scientists, futurists, are using these other platforms such as remote viewing. And of course, as you know, we were the first to bring out the actual pictures of the pyramidal formations and the grid systems on Mars, and also to actually do the work with geologists and remote sensing specialists in Egypt. In our book, Egypt's industrial complex goes beneath the Sphinx of Egypt to take a look at these amazing hydraulic systems, which were a source of power and energy for all of Egypt, as well as to look at the portals between Egypt and the Belt of Orion. We were the first to write about this and discuss this 20 years before Robert Bevell, looking at the mathematics of how Egypt is really the archive of Mother Earth, giving us information that brings together the historic culture history, the planetary history, as well as the cosmic future for all of us. And so we have the opportunity now, all of us, if we are positive in our way we think and look at new knowledge, to see and to share this wonderful treasury of knowledge that will allow us to make the right choices with the cosmic others.
But this really is the time we've been waiting for. And this is why we are all here. I say we're almost to 8 billion people on the planet. It's because we all want to be here, actually. Of course, sad that many people have departed, like Clifford Mahudi we were talking about. But I want to introduce the fact that there really are seeming to be, in addition to the normal everyday people, star seeds, as Alan calls them, I call them indigo children or star children, that seem to be coming to the planet and having a higher knowledge. I know when I grew up, and I grew up in Florida, really connected with the Bermuda Triangle, someone across the street from me who I knew when she was, 3, 4, and 5, she was about a year or two older, she had contact with Orion, and she did not tell me about this at all when she was young, until she saw the book that Dr. Hurtak wrote, The Keys of Enoch, and realized I married him. Then she came back, but she had been already doing radio shows up in Boston on Starseed. And I want to bring out also, there's a young man who was born in 1996. So it's pretty close to Marina, who's going to be on the show, I think, later today. Borishka Kripyanovich. Some people maybe had heard of him. He started really being unique when he was a very young baby. And then by the time he was 4, he was already kind of reading. And by the time he was 7, the neighbors were saying, wow, this guy's like really strange. And then by the time he was 11, they did a film on him. And he said he came from Mars. And he said that Mars, unfortunately, had a nuclear war. And that's why they're here, as well as other star seeds, coming to this planet. I imagine Marina's probably a couple years younger than him, but he said there's going to be many people coming to this planet to help this planet at this time. And he had a vast memory. And, he said some things, and of course, here he is 11 years old. He said there's going to be major floodings. Well, he thought it was going to kind of wipe out the planet. Well, there was major floodings exactly when he said 2011, 2012, and I would say adding on to 2013, we had a major Colorado flood. Argentina had floods. It didn't wipe the planet, but he wasn't really saying it was going to be the end of the world. It was just going to be the start of environmental problems. And I have to say that when you look at people like Carlos Diaz, who was really a very simple man living in a town south of Mexico City with a pyramid there, he said in his contact, and he went into vehicles and really chit-chatted with the extraterrestrial friend of his, he said they're really concerned about the environment, and that's why they're coming here now. This ties in also to the Keys of Enoch, as the Keys of Enoch talk about the different changes taking place. I just want to add a few other things that Boriska said, and one of the things was Egypt, the Sphinx, was going to be key to understanding our past, present, and future. Of course, this is something the Keys of Enoch talk about, the Sphinx. We feel the Sphinx is like the vehicle. You take the lion's solar power and you put on the face of, we would say, higher intelligence, and you are able to literally lift back off the planet.
I'm holding a picture of the Keys of Enoch with the picture of the Sphinx showing the hollow interior and also the vortex beneath the Sphinx itself. This is very important because we were able to find the engineering of passageways beneath the Sphinx to the pyramids, and also the interior of the Sphinx itself was hollow, being used for initiation, as you can see by humans walking to the breadth and length of the Sphinx itself. This is the type of model for space-time evaluation. The face of the lion represents the solar system, the solar logos. You take that off and you put the human face on, which means we're ready to excel beyond our solar spectrum.
Right. I want to go back a little bit to Borishka. He said he was from Mars originally. I think I might have mentioned that. But one of the things he did mention as well was the fact that he was concerned about the shifting of the magnetic fields on the planet. And I have to say that's also mentioned in the Keys of Enoch about the shift of the magnetic fields. And, it's happened the last time, supposedly 42,000 years ago. And it's okay. It's not going to kill anybody unless there's at a time of solar maximum or solar storms. That's where it gets more tricky. But what's happening now, and we have to look at this, is the fact that the fields are getting weaker around the planet. In fact, there's something called the South Atlantic Anomaly going on from South Africa, spreading all the way to South America, causing very weak magnetic fields over especially Brazil, but even extending all the way to Chile. What's interesting, NASA recently came out with the reason why maybe that particular part is so weak. They think that some major meteorite or something hit into the planet at that point, and now it's starting to weaken the field. That was a long time ago that it hit, but it's like a rupture in the field. It's like a problem on the planet. But the fields probably won't go to zero, but they'll start shifting at a certain point. It'll be very low and start shifting into the northern pole will be at the south point, and the south will be at the north. So these are all things that we have to be prepared for. I think Alan, you just sent me a message today about Uri Geller, that he's starting to say that, be prepared. Aliens are going to be here. And I believe that's extremely true. And we all need to grow into that knowledge and realize there's not one type of intelligence, but many types of intelligence here to help the planet.
We must be positive futurists and carefully weigh this information so we're not stampeded into what I would call emotional imbalance. And this is why our work as scientists and educators has put us in touch with the leading thinkers at Stanford Research Institute. We actually authored the whole textbook on remote viewing, which I'm holding here, Mind Dynamics, the Real X-Files.
With Elizabeth Rauscher.
So putting this all in cosmic perspective, you need to have consciousness, or at least the human heart, work on multiple levels to see the big picture. Otherwise, you're going to get lost in the plethora of all of the findings and discoveries. Clearly, the keys of Enoch pointed out these changes at the North and South Pole, the rapid melting of ice, the polar shift that will ultimately happen. But at the same time, the keys speak of the coming of the cosmic others, the cosmic hierarchy that will help us with this great change. And so please, whatever you do, understand the knowledge base that we and others like Ellen and the other speakers represent. We are laying a foundation for this quantum change that is coming, but it's going to come through those who take the upper path. This is the compassion, the love, the musical vibration, and ultimately the consciousness mind that we put on. In the ancient texts, we would call it the mind of the cosmic Christ, or the inner dynamic of realizing that we're all in this together. We are all, shall we say, being prepared for cosmic citizenship.
Right, and it's so important to realize that really these star children, indigo children, are here also to help. So there's so many levels of help. That's why 2012, Alan was with us down in Mexico. We did the day after 2012, because there's so much intelligences from other levels, not only extraterrestrial, but what we also call in Alan Steinfeld's book, extracelestials, and what we consider ultra terrestrials, which are the angelic forces. All those are watching, seeking to help us individually, seeking to help us collectively, and we can link to them. We are not underlings. With our ability to remote view, our higher soul capacity, we can be peers with many of these intelligences.
So like musical notes, we have the human race, we have the extraterrestrials, next level, the extracelestials, those that are beyond the physical form and more of an energized body, the ultra-terrestrials that deal with the pure energy form, we would call the superluminal light, and finally the divine source. And so we are part of, we would call a musical transcription, a symphonic synergy of love and joy, purpose, discovery. And this is the excitement of what is coming. It is not to be, shall we say, prophets of doom, prophets of disaster, but really positive of positive futures, because this is why ultimately we're all together as the tribe of peace.
And we think this is going to be the day of graduation into our collective understanding of who we are in the universe. We're going to be understanding that we are one of many, and we are multidimensional beings.
The tribes are being gathered. So let us understand the symbolism of the tribe of Judah, or the tribe of the Sphinx, to shine the light, to be the light, to be the understanding of the building blocks that connect us with the rainbow bridge of the cosmic design. Within our hearts, within our souls, within our higher selves, let us always be joyous as futurists. And we thank you.
You know, something kind of amazing. We were going to show a clip. I did a long interview with Elizabeth April earlier this week for this weekend. And the clip that we were going to show later today. But because of what you just said, Alan texted me and said, hey, let's show the Elizabeth April clip now. I'd like for you two to see it and then comment on it, because it's fascinating what she has to say, given what you just shared. So, Alan, I'm going to bring you on and you'll share the clip.
I think you had that clip. You remember, Scott? Didn't you have that today?
Oh, yes, I did. That's right. I did.
Yes. And I hope maybe Elizabeth Sartoris can also comment, because she's been in this field a long time too.
Yeah. So Elizabeth Sartoris is going to be on next. She's going to be our next guest after this.
Okay.
And
you just tell people who Elizabeth April is if they don't know.
Alan, can you do that for a moment? Because I'm having just a little bit of a technical with my computer.
Elizabeth April, I've never met her personally, but she is like Marina Serin. If you've seen her, she's a starseed. She's come in with an awareness of her soul's energy, and she brings in her connections to these other realms, to these other star systems, to these other dimensions. So people like her, and we'll be seeing Marina, are fully aware of their incarnational expression, and they are connected to the many levels of reality, which is what the Keys of Enoch, if you ever pick up that book, you are immediately transported into a multidimensional world. So yes, Scott.
Thank you. Thanks for covering. So yeah, Elizabeth April, I met her through Deborah Giusti. I want to thank Deborah for initially bringing her on to Saturday Night Live. And then she since has done multiple shows with me on Straight Talk and Sacred Sunday. And she's really, as you're about to see, a very dynamic, amazing being. But wait till you hear what she has to say in the video clip after what we just heard. So what has the Galactic Federation had to say about climate change? Where are we going? How bad is it going to get? Can they come help us? What do you have to say?
For sure, yeah. So I did a 2022 prediction video, which is actually on my YouTube, and it was all just messages about climate change. 2022 is, yeah, we're going to see the collapse of the old systems at those systemic levels, but we're really going to see a lot of climate issues. They talked about volcanoes erupting. Of course, we've already seen a massive one hit. They talked about tsunamis and waves. They talked about fire. They talked about flooding. There's going to be a lot of climate change taking place. Now, I'm not going to say that I am a what is it called? Global warming denier. I'm not at all. Like, I don't really put myself into any bucket, but I do want to say that in the first meeting that I ever got introduced to the Galactic Federation, one of the things that they mentioned back in 2011 was that there is something taking place on planet Earth called a pole shift. This is what they explained. I had no idea what this was, had no idea, just no idea. So they said that basically the magnetic poles, not the physical, but the magnetic poles on planet Earth are shifting. And they said that in our lifetime, they're going to shift about 13 degrees. Now, in the past, planet Earth, from what I've learned from them, has gone through many different pole shifts. This is not an unusual thing. This is actually just a cycle that planet Earth tends to go through, and we're right here during this cycle. Now, in the past, the magnetic poles have shifted 90 degrees. They've shifted 180 degrees. They've shifted completely. This was basically the time when humanity was wiped out, technology was wiped out, the Ice Age, the Great Floods, all of that basically took place time and time again. According to, I believe, different tribes and the indigenous community, we are currently on the 7th Earth, which I do believe that this is kind of our 7th cycle in a sense. I'm not really sure what that means, but it does resonate. And so the poles are shifting once again. This is where a lot of the climate change is taking place, is with the magnetic pole shift. Luckily, it's not going to wipe us out completely. It's only 13 degrees. This is a very small pole shift, but it is taking place. I definitely believe that planet Earth is being destroyed by humans. Like, that is, not even a question in my mind. And that's definitely adding to the destruction of, the ecosystem and the environment. We also have to realize that a lot of the flooding, a lot of even the animals, this is what I've channeled from the GFL, a lot of animals will die because the migration patterns are changing, because the magnetic systems are changing. And then also they've told me many years ago that a lot of new species, a lot of new animals are actually going to start to be discovered. I don't know if that's maybe some sort of timeline hop, or if that actually is a migration shift. So creatures from the deep, in the ocean are now coming to the surface. I'm not really sure why, new creatures would be discovered or species would be discovered. But that's kind of what I've channeled. So 2022 is going to be a year of a lot of that shifting and changing. I'm a prepper myself. I really recommend that, not to be in fear, but plan for the worst, hope for the best when it comes to being in a big city, when it comes to being in a place that maybe you're at a coastline or what have you. I just recommend food and water for your family for up to 3 months. Once again, it's not a fear-based thing. As a matter of fact, when stuff does happen, you're not in fear because you're good to go. And the way that I do that, because a lot of people tell me I don't have the money, to buy all these things. And every time I go grocery shopping, I buy 1 or 2 canned goods, non-perishables. And that way it's not breaking the bank, it's not hurting your budget, but you do have something that's really stored up for yourself and your family in that worst case scenario. So once again, I don't think it's going to be completely catastrophic, but 2022 has a lot of that sort of climate change taking place.
Thank you. So what So now you know why we wanted to show that.
That's, 99% of that, and we would agree with 100%. We don't know about the 13 degrees, but the main thing is, as she said, do be prepared. But if we tune in, if we're part of this cosmic understanding, we're going to be in the right place at the right time. And it may be ground zero for nurses and doctors or firemen that we need to help people, or it may be, people are finding their cosmic family right now. Many people are coming to Sedona, just being called, oh, that's a safe place. I want to be there. And I want to say that how much the other side is trying to help us. I actually believe, and it's my personal opinion, that the Nimitz UFO event in 2004, seen as water, something underneath the water, was working on neutralizing some of the buildup of the San Andreas fault line. They are trying to neutralize a lot of the problems, some of which are natural, some of which are man-made.
In my conversations with leading scientists who are in telepathic communication with the visitors, clearly many of these expeditions from the other side are targeting ocean areas along the West Coast in certain areas of the Pacific to place technologies that will help us minimize the changes that are going to come.
I mean, they've been seen over Fukushima. There's also Argentina nuclear power plant that they're seeing all the time because it's always leaking stuff. They are trying to help us as best they can. We have to do it too. Many have incarnated here, starseeds like.
And we know the world has gone through many cataclysms. This was the work of Louis Alvarez at UC Berkeley, who showed in more scientific detail than anyone before him the massive destruction of the dinosaurs 60 million plus years ago, and the phenomena that this repeats itself every so many hundreds of thousands of years. So we're living at a time where we have to hold on to our seatbelts, but at the same time realize we've got angelic wings that can help us cruise over these bumps and situations. Again, other than the handful of scientists and all the facts and figures, it's important to realize that the power of the mind and the power of prayer is so precious, more powerful than all the atomic bombs at a particular event. And so we can focus that energy for positive
and to mitigate things, to move hurricanes from major cities. We've done this work. We even did prayers for peace in the Middle East in the 70s. It's so important we don't feel overwhelmed.
Positive engagement, positive mitigation, positive transformation. These are the bywords that we should use. We are here to make the change.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. And they're both going to stay on as part of our after show. So we're going to get more JJ and Desiree then. We also are going to talk about their appearance at the Conscious Life Expo in a moment. But just want to let people know where you can go to get all things JJ and Desiree. And that's their primary website. And it's a busy, active website. It's keysofenoch.org. KEYSOFENOCH.org. And of course, the Keys of Enoch, which JJ wrote quite a while ago, is really one of the great, it's like the Bible of information for us. It's one of the great books. It's right up there with Autobiography of a Yogi, I think, in terms of really being a classic that almost all of us have read, almost all of us have been influenced by. So thank you, JJ. Whenever I have you on the show, it's like I'm remembering when I was much younger reading the Keys of Enoch going, this is so cool. So it's really cool to...
Oh, thank you, Scott.
Yeah.
We have a plethora of documentations from very high sources that we're willing to also talk about in future events. But again, the Library of Teaching is open for all to enjoy.
Beautiful.
It's still fresh, Scott. That book is still fresh. There's a reference to 2004 where knowledge coming forward. And this is when the Nimitz and their whole beginning of disclosure began. And JJ predicted that back in 73, that it would start in 2004. So there's still things to discover in there. It still reads very fresh. One thing I just wanted to add to what Elizabeth April and Dr. Hurtak said is I just got a message on my chat, on my YouTube chat, saying that the sun just released a big M solar flare today, 2 hours ago. So I just want to tell people we have our Earth ecology, but we live within a bigger solar ecology that is also affecting our weather and climate change. And we live in a galactic field as well, which is influencing our genetics and I think responsible for evolution. So it's a whole, as my next guest would say, a whole keyboard. So are we ready for Elizabeth to talk?
Not quite yet, because we want to let people know about the Conscious Life Expo.
Right. Of course.
I can share about that. I've been going for actually 30 years since it began in the 80s. And it's really like a modern mystery school. You will see the top presenters there. And of course, it hasn't been able to happen as it did, but it is happening next weekend in Los Angeles at the LAX Hilton. So if you can go there physically, I would highly recommend it. I'm going to be there. The Hurtaks are going to be there. Alan's going to be there, and many other speakers like George Noory, Billy Carson, Bashar will be there. Whitley Strieber will be there. Carolyn Cory, Jacques Vallée, Suzanne Wilson, Jimmy Church, William Henry, Linda Moulton Howe. It's really, truly a coming together and convergence. And if you cannot come, they are doing live stream. So you can be with them and see any of these speakers. And it's really important to support our conferences now. So even joining on line stream and supporting them financially is really important. They've had a hard time in the last several years staying afloat, but here they are again coming out. They are, for people who are going to be there physically, they are going to test everyone as they go in. So everyone feels safe that everyone's been tested before they go in there. And Alan's going to be there too. Right.
And Neil Gar's going to be there. So we're all going to be there. You, Deborah, you're always there. Everywhere I see you there.
Always there.
And Deborah, you know, it is actually the best, not one of the best. It is the best Body Mind Expo in the country. It really, it's phenomenal, and so much great information.
ConsciousLifeExpo.com.
Yes.
All right.